Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are starting our coverage this morning on Tropical Storm Barry. We've got meteorologist Kevin Smith joining us this morning, bringing us the latest updates. We're going to be following this storm throughout the morning to make sure you and your family are in the know and safe. So, Kevin, let's get right to it. I'm sure a lot of people are. Their biggest concern, or what they want to know right now, is what happened overnight since we've been asleep. Are any changes that have
no real
come with the storm?
changes. The winds are still holding in at 65 miles per hour. Let's get to the stats on your screen of what we're dealing with on Barry. And I must say, this storm is holding its own, even though on the northern fringes, we're starting to see it's dissipating because of some dry air there. We'll take a look here in a bit, but you still see the winds are at 65, moving to the west-northwest. Now it's picked up its speed. Earlier this morning, it was at 3 miles per hour, just creeping along now at 5 miles per hour. It's 55 miles southwest of Morgan City. It'll be making landfall here in a couple of hours in Vermilion Bay. So it looks like it's going to be moving off toward the southwest of us here in the Baton Rouge area, but still we're going to be feeling its effects in the form of some heavy rainfall. Now the water vapor satellite imagery, still a little bit of some blacks and even some grays popping up ahead of this storm system. It's eating away, at least at the northern fringes of this, and you see a little bit of that blow up of cloud cover. Most of the significant rainfall is in the southern sector of this storm system, and it will be this part. Even though the eye is going to be coming, at least the center of circulation is going to be coming on shore within the next couple of hours, it will be behind this that we'll start to see that bands of heavy rainfall moving into the Baton Rouge area. So even though it's going to appear to be nice out there, well, still windy, the rainfall will happen later this morning and will continue all the way until about Monday. So here we go. The gusts are at 75. It's moving to the west-northwest course at 5 miles per hour. Now the pressure is very important. It's been holding at 993 millibars. Remember, yesterday morning it was at 1,001 millibars, and then it continued to drop. Whenever that pressure drops, that means the storm system is getting stronger, but thankfully it's holding its own, which means, of course, the winds are sustaining at 65 miles per hour. And also, too, yesterday we had this as a Cat 1 hurricane, now has dropped back to a strong tropical storm making landfall here within the next couple of hours. And then around 1 p.m., still the winds are holding in at least 70 miles per hour, but moving toward I-49, Lafayette. And then as we move up toward Alexandria, this would be a Sunday morning, still the winds at 50 miles per hour. Then we'll start to race off toward the northeast of Shreveport as we push towards Sunday evening, and then another area of low pressure extending all the way toward Little Rock, and then we'll race off toward the north and east of us. So currently on the Doppler, experiencing those rain bands that are moving in, and we have one band that's now to the north of Hammond, and we have more activity that's going to be moving in during the next few hours or so. And then the heavy bands are now extending out toward the east of us, and you see back toward Mobile, they actually have a significant band that's causing a little bit of some problems along the roadways there along 65 as well as along 10, but most of the significant rainfall will start to move in our area during the next few days, actually few hours, and we still see lightning strikes. This is near the center of circulation, and this is that heavy rainfall that eventually be making its way into the Baton Rouge area within the next couple of hours. And then there are more rain out there. Our radar does not go that far down south, but that will be with us for the foreseeable future. So here we go. We're at 77 degrees. Look at that wind from the east at 22 miles per hour, and that wind is causing some problems. Let's take a look at those energy outages that we're experiencing across the area, and you see some reds are popping up on your screen, especially off toward the southeast. That's right along Burbank. We have more that are popping up, at least sporadically, as you make your way toward Livingston, but really, Carly, the problems are really starting to mount up toward the south of us, down toward Donaldsonville. You see all the reds there extending down toward Napoleonville, and also as you make your way toward the Gulf Coast, because, of course, Carly, they're experiencing the very strong winds in excess of around 40, 50, and even 70 mile per hour winds in that area. Meanwhile, we're under a tropical storm warning. Everyone is highlighted in the red you're going to see up on your screen, including the Baton Rouge metro area, and extends back toward I-49. Also, Lafayette's under this, Baton Rouge metro, North Shore, Mandeville, Covington, down toward New Orleans. We're expecting sustained winds of around 39 to 40, even 45 miles per hour, and even some gusts of around 60 miles per hour, so be aware of that. And that's also causing some delays. Speaking of that, if you're traveling out of BTR, let's get that up right now. We have a lot of cancellations and also delays that are going to be happening this morning. And you see, we have an American Airlines flight to DFW scheduled for 5 o'clock. At least that was like, we now passed that. Of course, it's been canceled. United to Houston has been canceled. That's supposed to take off at 5:30. We have another Delta to Atlanta at 6 a.m. It's been delayed until around about 8:50. We'll see if that gets off the ground. American to DFW has been canceled at 6:17. We have United to Houston canceled at 7:25. And Delta to Atlanta at 7:30 has now been delayed until 9:50 a.m. Also, we have some heads up. This came from a tweet from the New Orleans airport. If you're going to be traveling down there, this is from Southwest. They have canceled all their flights today. They will resume service tomorrow, Sunday, July the 14th. So take note of that if you're traveling out of MSY. Meanwhile, we have the storm surges and watches and warnings currently in effect. We're still expecting that storm surge to occur within the next couple of hours. We're expecting a 3 to 5 foot rise in the Gulf of Mexico, and then along the North Shore, along Lake Pontchartrain, extending back toward at least Gulfport, Biloxi, because that wind is blowing all that water in from the south and southeast. Therefore, we're expecting that sea rise, and eventually, Carly and everyone, that will start to work its way up in the Comey and the Amy rivers. Speaking of the rivers right now, they're under a, we call a river flood warnings, and Amy River at Denham Springs right now, we have a observed value right now is at 10.59 feet. We're expecting that flood stage is at 29 feet. We're expecting it to rise to 41 feet as we travel into your Tuesday and Wednesday morning. And you see that's a major flood stage. So those of you that live at least in the Denham Springs, right along East Baton Rouge Parish as well, into Denham Springs, expect a major flooding that's going to be happening. Now, the same story is going to be happening along the Comey River. Now, flood stage is at 20 feet. Right now, it's at a negative, but right now, we can expect that river to rise to 34.5 feet, and that would be a record, Carly, if we see that. That would happen Monday into Tuesday. So everyone be aware of that. So some major flooding expected along the river. And with that in mind, take a look at those rainfall totals. At least the bullseye of the blacks have now pushed off toward the west and southwest of the Baton Rouge area. And I would say that's some better news, but still expecting between 5 to 10 inches of rainfall here in the Baton Rouge area. Some isolated areas around 13, 15 inches of rainfall, so be aware of that. So folks, if you're going to be doing some traveling today, I would not advise to do it. We have a live shot now from WGNO. This is down into the New Orleans area where they are receiving some wind gusts right now of around 50 and 60 miles per hour. There's a no-go if you plan on going down there today. Let's get back to the Futurecast, at least the Euro model. This is one of the models we use. We have a GFS, a Euro, an RPM, a NAM. But this is a long-range model indicating still trying to pump out between 6 to 13 inches or so into the Baton Rouge area. But realize as that storm system now moving further toward the west and southwest, this bullseye could be more over toward Grostadt, Rosedale, extending into Lafayette. But still, as I say, 5 to 10 inches of rainfall, some isolated areas 13 to 15. That flash flood watch will continue until Sunday, tomorrow. And then once again, the highlighted areas, including the Baton Rouge Metro, expecting that heavy rainfall potential. So one more time, the winds are at 65 with some gusts of 75. The movements to the west-northwest at 5 miles per hour. That pressure holding very steadily at 993. Millibarbs will start the race off toward the northwest, and then still bringing some heavy rainfall, Carly, and everyone across the state. So get ready for that. That threat will continue at least for the foreseeable future. So once again, I hope everyone had at least ran their errands yesterday, because today will be a different story with that rainfall moving in. Let's take a look at the forecast models. This is the GFS, the American model, still indicating taking Barry off toward the west and southwest. Pretty good, right on cue. Let's take a look at the Euro, what it is doing. And once again, it's taking it off toward the west and southwest. And notice those heavy bands right there, still trying to move it across the Baton Rouge area. That's why we're still holding those rain chances, at least the rain amounts at around 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. I want to advise everyone, we also have that threat for some isolated tornadoes today. That's why we have a weather aware day in effect for today and tomorrow. You know your tornado safety tips of what you need to do, avoid those windows and glasses, and also get out of those mobile homes. Make sure you have an emergency plan available today. Make sure you have plenty of water, batteries, etc. Evacuation plan just in case, especially for you folks living along the Comey and the Amy rivers, with those rivers going to be rising. Now, they won't be rising today. It's going to be the aftermath of this. We're talking about Sunday, Monday, into Tuesday. Make sure you have those pet supplies and also have a plan in writing. So the futurecast indicating this is around noon. Here we go with those moderate to heavy rainfall bands moving across the Baton Rouge area. And then we will continue to see that counterclockwise spin from Barry. And then you see at 7:30, more bands moving in. Same story. This would be at midnight. Another band trying to push in from the southwest. And if we travel toward 4:30, more bands. And then it'll also be the case as we push into Sunday morning. And then by Sunday, 5 p.m., the storm system will start to push off toward the northwest, and we start to see those bands coming slowly dwindling down. So the next 12 hours, temperatures really not moving all that much, Carly, only into the upper 70s into the lower 80s with our rain chances 90 to 100%. You can't go any higher than that, so be advised of that. We're always keeping you updated here on brproud.com as well as on Facebook, Facebook Live, and Twitter. And so, Carly, once again, heavy rainfall threat today. Tropical Storm Barry making landfall within the next couple of hours at Vermilion Bay. But it appears it's going to be off toward the southwest of us, so the models are getting everything right. And I would say the saving thing is that it appears it's going to remain a tropical storm, not a hurricane, not a Cat 1 hurricane, and also that heavy rainfall threat, at least the 20-25 inches of rainfall threat, is starting to slide off just a tad toward the west and southwest. But still don't hold your guard down. We're going to see some heavy rainfall today.
Yeah, we need to make sure we're all prepared. I actually had a viewer just tweet me asking where it's going to be making landfall. You said Vermilion Bay. That's where correct. That will be happening. And when will that be happening? What's kind of the timeline of what people can expect when we're going to start to see the impacts of this storm here in the capital city?
We're expecting a landfall right around 7 a.m. or so.
Okay.
I would say 7 to around 9 a.m. It's moving very well. It's moving slowly at 3 miles per hour, but this has picked up in some steam around 5 miles per hour, only at about 50 miles or so to the south of, well, at least the west of Morgan City. So it's trying to track on. But you see there in that last jaunt there on the Doppler, see how it's trying to. I mean, these storm systems, they wobble back and forth, and this storm system is filling that ridge. There's actually a ridge of high pressure that's back into Texas. That's why they're starting to see temperatures there into the upper 90s into the lower 100s. So these storm systems try to find a, we say, a less suitable, less environment to move into, and this storm system is doing, is trying to find that less environment, and it's bumping up against that ridge. So once again, a lot of folks are asking that question. And Carly, if you have folks that are asking questions, if you go on Facebook right now, because we are live streaming this, if they have questions right now, you can ask me. I will kindly answer them. I know we had some folks over in West Baton Rouge Parish that were asking questions yesterday. I had some folks this morning asking me questions. Just feel free. But once again, we're expecting landfall within the next couple of hours between around 7 to 9 a.m. Vermilion Bay. That's off toward the southwest of us. So folks from about Lafayette right down to US 90, we're talking about Franklin, down toward Morgan City, expecting to feel the brunt of this storm system. Then, of course, it extends up along 49. 90 changes into 49. And then that would be the brunt. And then right in toward the river basin there, we're expecting that backwater to be moving in. So advisement there. There are not that many people that live there, but be advised you're going to see a little bit of a storm surge that's going to be happening within the next couple of hours. And then it's going to start the race off toward 49 or so. And then once again, as we push into your Sunday, and then by Monday, this will all be a distant memory. Still some residual showers that'll be moving across the area, Carly. But once again, just be advised, the heavy rainfall threat that's going to be across our area, potential for 5 to 10 inches of rainfall before it's all said and done. And as I said, isolated areas could see around, 5 to, I would say, up to 13, 15 inches of rainfall before it's all said and done. Now I'm going on to my Facebook page right now to see if we have any more questions, because I'm going to be trying to answer your questions as the morning goes on. And a lot of folks, because you are the eyes and ears out there, you know, there was Susan that asked the question about the when Barry going to make landfall. So Susan, I hope I answered your question this morning. And a lot of folks, of course, are responding and really tweeting out and all that kind of things, but we're going to try to answer your question this morning. But the main thing for everyone, heavy rainfall. That's going to be our primary threat. Folks along the Comey and Amy rivers, be prepared for major flooding. I know I was up and about last night because I had to move everything up in my attic because I live along the Amy River. So it happens here. This is where we live in Louisiana. We live along rivers and bayous, and that's going to be the case, especially with that wind blowing in from the southeast. And that wind is going to be moving up because people realize the Amy and the Comey rivers, they actually flow into Lake Pontchartrain. And with that wind moving up from the southeast, we call that back flooding. And that's going to be the case today, so be advised. You know, just prepare. I hope everyone was prepared yesterday. Today, just stay home and watch us.
Yeah, that wind yesterday, I was out last minute shopping, and I was feeling the wind in the afternoon around 4 and 5 o'clock. It was already picking up while I was driving. I could feel it moving my car a little bit. So, and I felt it on my way in this morning. So the wind, you can start to hear that and see that and feel that. We had a little bit of rain this morning on my way in. I'm not sure what it's like outside right now. But Kevin, you mentioned people asking questions. They can go to our Facebook page underneath this live stream and just leave their questions in the comments. Is that what we're asking them to do if they have questions?
Yes, just go to the Facebook page. I think we can pop that up right now. Just go to the comments and add something there. If you have a question, just add to it, and I would kindly try to answer your question like Susan did there, like when is Barry going to make landfall? And I think it's just a notification that we're just doing the live shot. But if you, the live stream. But if you have a question, just continuously try to answer that. At least ask the question, and I surely will try to answer that question for everyone on this Saturday morning. Let's get to the SPC forecast for today. As I said, we're under a weather aware day. You see the yellow that's highlighted on your screen, which means the primary threats today will be some brief heavy rainfall, some damaging winds in excess, of course, really tropical storm force winds. That's why we're under the tropical storm warning, up to some gusts to 60 and 70 miles per hour. Small hail, that's really not a threat really per se. I think isolated tornadoes will be with us because these tropical systems there's a lot of spinning in the atmosphere. Therefore, we have that tornadic threat that will be with us. Now, as we push into your Sunday, now notice the colors change a little bit. We have a general thunderstorm risk to a marginal risk because the storm system will slowly start to exit off toward the north of us, but still a weather-aware day with the potential for that heavy rainfall and even that threat for even some of these bands still producing some isolated tornadoes across the area. Now let's get to the 3-day forecast where we get to the light at the end of the tunnel. Here we go. Weather-aware days, of course, today and tomorrow, breezy. We have the tropical storm force conditions. Temperatures right around 82 degrees. Rain chances 90 to 100%. 90% as we travel into your Sunday. Now, Monday, rain chances at around 50%. The storm system will start to exit off toward the north of us, high temperature of 86 degrees. Now, as we push into your Tuesday, that's more of another transition day, partly sunny with our rain chances at 40%. Temperatures only into the upper 80s because of all the rainfall we're going to be receiving today as well as on Sunday. We have to keep those temperatures down, at least afternoon highs. And then finally, back to Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, typical summer weather. We call daytime heating convection that'll be firing up some chances for rain, and temperatures will start to moderate into the 90s, and by that time heat index values 99 to the lower 100s, and we'll see those overnight lows back into the mid 70s. But right now our attention is once again turning toward Tropical Storm Barry, which is creating all the hay right now, and still those winds are now holding in at 65 miles per hour with that movement to the west-northwest at 5 miles per hour, expecting landfall here within the next couple of hours, which will be at Vermilion Bay. And right now, this storm system is is covering a lot of real estate. We have a live shot from Mobile, Alabama, where they just had a band that just went through there, and they're still experiencing some heavy rainfall as well as some wind gusts. They had one at the airport, 59 miles per hour. So these bands are indeed throwing out a lot of rainfall. And we have another band that's now, I'm going to go back toward the radar, to show you the bands that are currently moving in, and you see that's that band that just moved through Mobile, and we have another one that's moving toward Biloxi. Now, I want to also notice something too on the radar scope. During the last scan, I'm going to walk back to the wall to show you this. Now, as earlier I've been talking about this dry air. Now, what this dry air is doing is actually trying to tear this storm system apart, and it's also making from the center of the circulation. It's making these feeder bands feed a little bit further out away from the center. Interesting, but that's what's happening right now, which means the feeder bands, instead of being close towards the Baton Rouge area, which is good news for us because we're not receiving a heavy rainfall, that will happen a little bit later as that center of circulation actually moves on shore. But the feeder bands with the significant activity is well to the east of us. We have this band that's now moving up toward Biloxi and Gulfport, and then we have the one that just went through Mobile, producing that wind gust of 59 miles per hour and extending all the way out toward Pensacola. So this significant band and the other ones are moving away from us, but still way down there, we still have the rainfall that's going to be heavy at times. That'll be moving in later this morning, Carly, and to the afternoon, to be aware of that. Here's a broader view showing the significant rain, and you see all the lightning strikes because this is the center of circulation. This is where most intense thunderstorms are, and usually in a typical tropical system or a hurricane, you will have this going around the center or the eye, but right now, because of that dry air, it's been cutting the system off, at least yesterday and the day before that. We're not seeing much development on the northern fringes of that, now changing over toward the northwestern quadrant because that dry air is taking over. And you can even see it on the radar scope. It's trying to eat away at the showers on the western and southwestern side. Very important to denote. So once again, we're at that 77-degree temperature with the wind from the east at 22 miles per hour, and the visibility is holding in at 5 miles. And that wind is very gusty. Not only is it gusty here, but it's gusty down in the New Orleans area right now. Live view of those folks where they're dealing with some heavy rainfall as well, and that will continue to be the case as this storm system will continue to move in from the southeast to the south and southwest of us. So once again, those gusts are at 75 miles per hour. The pressure holding steady at 993 millibars. For inspecting Elizabeth landfall, Vermilion Bay within the next couple of hours between 7 to 9 a.m. with some winds of 70 miles per hour, and even those gusts up there around 80 miles per hour, and then still moving toward folks in Lafayette, and then moving right down Interstate 49. So folks, if you're traveling up to Shreveport next 3 days, don't do it. Don't do it.
So the rainfall, of course, for us, this is going to be a big rain event. How many inches are we looking at here in the capital city?
Here in the capital city metro, between 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Some localized areas, I would say, between 13 to 15 inches of rain. But it appears that those 20 inches of rain that we talked about yesterday and the day before that, I'm not seeing that. But still, the Amy and the Comey rivers, I think we still have the graphic up for those folks. They're still expecting the river to continue to rise, especially in Denham Springs, and around about 41 feet or so. And that's going to be a major flood event for those folks. The same story you see there at the Comey River at Joy Road. We're expecting 34.5 feet, and that would beat the old record of 34.2 feet. Was set back many years ago. And now we're going to take a look at some more river gauges, especially along the Amy River. You folks down into Port Vincent, haven't been talking about you that much this morning, but we're going to mention you right now. Right now, you have an observed value of 3.86 feet. At least it was observed at 4:15. We're expecting that river to rise all the way to 13.5 feet as we push into Wednesday and Thursday. Even though we're going to receive the rainfall today, tomorrow, and to Monday, it takes that river a while to rise, and that would be the case. And also, you're moving further downstream is going to be happening from that. Also, folks, over in Livingston Parish, we have also the Tickfall River over in Holden. You're also under a flood warning as well. Your observed value right now is 0.51 feet. At least it was observed at 3:45. We're expecting you to rise all the way to 21 feet. That would be a little bit shy of the record, but that's still in major territory of flooding. So be advised if you live along the Tickfall River. So once again, Carly, this is not only along the Amy and the Comey rivers, but it's also happening along the Tickfall River, also the Tangipahoa River, and there's all these river warnings that are currently in effect. For you folks along the Amite River, they're at Bayou Manchac. Now, that's a little area that also floods, and here we go. There you go. Right now, the reserve value is at 3.2 feet. We're expecting flood stages at 9 feet. We're expecting the river by Wednesday into Thursday to rise to 20 feet, shy of the record of 21 feet, but you still see it's in that pink to that purple category. That's a major flood stage, so everyone be aware of that. Once again, you live along those river basins, be advised you're going to be expecting some heavy rainfall. Speaking of rainfall totals, let's go back to that map to show you what we're going to be experiencing. And you still see that bullseye. Remember yesterday, that bullseye, Carly and everyone, was about right here, at least over the Baton Rouge area, about right here. And actually, we had that color of, actually, we had some blues that were popping up. That's like 25 inches plus, but right now, still about 20 inches off toward the southwest of us. And you see, that's right where this storm system is going to be making landfall at Vermilion Bay. So right along US 90, folks in Franklin, extending up to the south and southeast of Lafayette. And then some of this extending up toward you folks into St. Francisville. That's pumping up to around 16 inches, as I said, some localized areas, 15 or so, 16 inches of rainfall. And then as you make your way down toward Grostadt, and I would say Rosedale, and then some of that now extending up. It looks like that gets a little close toward Port Allen, Addis, and Bruley. Be advised, you can also see those localized amounts of 16 inches. And then as you make your way toward the Amite River corridor, that's pushing in at around 12 to 13 inches of rainfall. Therefore, we saw on that Euro map, it was coming out pretty close, around 13.69 inches of rainfall, what the models were pumping out across the metro. And then you see, here we go, place this futurecast in there. 13.59. That would be through Monday evening, and you still see about 6.92. The further east you go away from that center of circulation, you find less amounts of rainfall. Like closing in on 4 inches into Hammond. The further west you go, because that center of circulation is going to be traveling right here, and therefore all the heavy rainfall will be in that corridor as those bands will continue to pile up, moving in from the southeast toward the northwest. And you folks in New Roads, you're in that, this that white band that was extending down toward the south. 15.86 inches of rainfall will be possible in your vicinity. But once again, this could deviate, and also depends on where those heavy bands will set up across the area. With that in mind, that flash flood watch will continue for the entire area. Still expecting those heavy rainfall totals of around 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. And as I said, those amounts still varying across the area, so be advised of that. One more time, a view of what's happening down in the Crescent City away from our area, showing nothing. They're just seeing right now some strong winds into that area right now, but still some wind gusts around 50 and 60 miles per hour. But right now, that's about it. And then, of course, we have a live view of our tower cam overlooking the capital city, showing nothing but that partly to mostly cloudy sky with those bands trying to push in, but most of the significant rainfall is staying off toward the east of us, because around that center of circulation, as we see, I'm going to zoom back toward that Doppler to show you, the heavier bands are now setting up away from the area as dry air is trying to just eat this system apart. And you see it about right there, but the lightning strikes are now popping up right near that center area of circulation, about right here, and actually going to be moving right toward Vermilion Bay, about right there within the next couple of hours. And you still see the significant rainfall still about, I would say about 3, 4, 5 hours away. And then eventually all the bulk of this precipitation is actually even more rain that's way well down there, because we don't have a radar site to pick this up. This will all take a while to move in across the Baton Rouge area, which means the rain chances will start today, continue into your Sunday, and will finally slowly start to taper off on Monday as this storm system kicks in. So it's going to be a 1, 2, and then a 3 punch with this storm system. But it appears right now that the significant bands of some gusty winds are now moving away from the Baton Rouge area. This is just nothing but heavy rainfall. a little bit some rumbles of thunder, but this is heavy rainfall. But right now, the significant threat for tornadic activity, as it appears right now, is pushing off toward the east of us with this band that's going to be moving up toward the Pearl River, actually to the east of Pearl River, toward Gulfport and Biloxi, and moving toward the Mobile area. And that's what sometimes, Carly, these systems will do to you when you get that dry air in here. It tries to tear the system apart, and that's indeed what's trying to happen with this system. But every tropical system goes through different evolutions. They go through different phases. They pulse up like a thunderstorm. They pulse up, they pulse down, they wobble and things like that. But this storm system has a little bit of a mind of its own, like they all do. So even though not that much is happening that much on the northern and the northwestern side of this storm system, it was going to be the southern part of this storm system where we're going to see that big one punch. The second punch is going to come when those heavy bands will start to pushing across the area. And that third punch is going to be happening on, when you think it's all over with, on Monday when the storm system is trying to get out of here. So it's going to take its while to get out of here because this is a very big storm system. But eventually we'll start to see that rainfall moving in. But it appears now that that heavy, heavy rainfall threat, as the storm system keeps wobbling further toward the west and southwest, will be moving back toward the Lafayette area, extending toward Opelousas. But still in the metro, we're on the cusp, at least, of the rainfall totals of around 16, 17 inches. So be advised, of course, those river warnings are still in effect, not only for the Amy Comey rivers, but for the Tickfaw River, the Tangipahoa River, and let's not forget about the Mississippi River. Remember, it's been 250 days plus that the Mississippi River has been above flood stage, and with that water coming in from the southeast, Carly and everyone, it's not adding to the bad situation on the Mississippi River. We're not expecting the levees to be compromised or anything like that, but if you live especially toward the south, be advised just to keep your eye on the Mississippi River. Also, another point to take note of, when this storm system moves to the north, it's going to take a while to fall apart. It's going to be dumping a lot of rainfall across the Ohio River Valley. Eventually, all that will start to work its way down toward the south into the Baton Rouge area. So this is going to be a long time event of at least flooding along the Mississippi River, as well, keeping an eye on the Amy, Carly, and the Comey River. So that's a little bit of an update right now on what's happening with the Tropical Storm Barry, expecting that landfall, as I said, between 7 to 9 a.m. Sustained winds are still holding in at 65 miles per hour, with some gusts there at 75 miles per hour, and moving to the west-northwest at 5 miles per hour, expecting landfall, as I said, Vermilion Bay. Moving on to the southwest of us here in the Baton Rouge area, our main threats, beside some gusty winds out there, is just heavy rainfall. It's not happening right now. You're probably watching us on air, and you probably even open up the door and you're saying, oh, it's not that bad, Kevin and Carly. No, just stay alert, because the rainfall, that's going to be that first punch when those bands start coming in, and that second punch when this heavy rainfall is going to be with us, and it's going to be with us for a while. So get ready for that.
That's right. And throughout the morning, as Kevin just mentioned, right now we might not be seeing a lot of that rain, but once it starts to pick up here in the next few hours, you guys are our eyes and ears. Obviously, be safe, but if you're seeing any flooding in your neighborhood or around your home, be sure to send us pictures and videos. That way we know where we need to send our crews to get the updates and let the people know what's happening around the capital city. So if you see anything, feel free to email us at brproud.com. You can also send it to us through Facebook and Twitter. And just be our eyes and ears for us out there. But obviously, if you are taking a picture or a video, make sure you're doing it in a safe place.
That's right. Like I said, I hate to be mother here, but yeah, doing it in a safe manner. We had some folks during the flooding event
in June.
Back in June, and they were out and about and trying to take pictures, and they got stuck. Folks, don't do that.
From your doorstep or your porch, somewhere safe.
Inside the house.
That's right.
There you go.
All right, well, our team coverage is kicking off right now. We're going to check in with Kennedy Walker. She is out in Ascension this morning, keeping an eye on conditions out there as Tropical Storm Barry makes its way closer to the capital city. Kennedy, what is it looking like out there in Ascension this morning?
Good morning, Carly. Yeah, I am at the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office right now. It's pretty calm. When we pulled up, it was raining just a little bit, but everything has slowed down. The wind has picked up quite a bit. As you can see behind me, there's a flag, and it's just been moving very heavily. People have been listening. They haven't really been on the roads that much. A few cars have driven past, but right now it's just the waiting game. As Kevin said, it will be coming later today. So right now we're just waiting on it to come. There's been a lot of first responders pull up at the sheriff's office. So we've been seeing them. We spoke to the PIO who said that they're all taking turns. They're doing shifts, just waiting on the rain to stop by. But like I said, right now it's pretty calm. It's the calm before the storm. No rain right now. It actually feels pretty good. So wind is picking up, and that's all that's happening right now.
And you mentioned a number of first responders making their way there to the sheriff's office. With speaking to them, how are they preparing? They're just stacking up with their staff this morning?
Yes, they are. We've seen a lot of people drive in. A lot of them are just sitting in the parking lot right now waiting for direction. I don't know if you can see, but the wind is definitely picking up. I just moved quite a little bit just there, but they're all just waiting like you and I, waiting on the rain to fall.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you can hear me. This is Kevin in the studio. Have they had any reports of anything that's happening over in that area?
No, they haven't given us any details right now. They were just basically just checking on us, seeing if we needed anything, and then they mentioned that they're just waiting just like us. They're on a shift system and waiting for everything to happen. But as you can see, like, there's no rain right now. It's just really windy, so they're just waiting.
Well, hey, here's a heads up for you. Even though it's calm, I always say it's calm before the storm. The rain is coming in about another couple of hours, and then, I hate to say, things are going to start getting a little different when we talk to you here in a few.
No, I can definitely believe you. I can believe you, Kevin.
There you go. Thank you very much now.
All right, Kennedy, thanks. Stay safe out there this morning. The waiting game, that's kind of what we're all doing this morning as we monitor this storm. Kevin, you guys have been tracking it there in the Storm Tracker team since Monday, really, following this storm, and we're about a couple hours out, maybe an hour and a half from when we're expecting to see some impacts.
Remember, this was Invest 92L, then it became potential Tropical Cyclone 2, and then, long and behold, we have Tropical Storm Barry. Let's get to the maps to show you what we're talking about this morning. Just in case you missed it, you still see that counterclockwise spin there on the radar. And the last estimate, at least the last advisory we had with this storm, the winds are still at 65 miles per hour. This is the 4 o'clock update, at least advisory, with the movement to the west-northwest at 5 miles per hour. Is about, I would say now, about 49 miles southwest of Morgan City. It's taking its time tracking along, but it has picked up in speed from 3 miles per hour that we saw last hour. So currently, at least on the Doppler, you're starting to see those bands that are off toward the east of us. That's where we find the significant bands, but really that black you see on your screen, that's the water vapor satellite imagery. That's what's eating away at the storm system or trying to tear it apart, and that's why most of the southern sector of the storm system is seeing all of the convection that's happening off to the south of us. You even saw there in one scan, we tried to get, sometimes these storm systems, they go through so many phases, and you have like a center of circulation that changes from the northern quadrant, and then it moves back down. And you saw a little bit, it looks like an eye that was trying to develop in the center of the circulation. We have to keep an eye on that. But they regenerate, and then they regenerate, and then they, you know, go through those cycles, and that's what's happening with Barry. But right now, look, it's trying to get its act together, but now it's also encountering some landfall, which is now really holding us on. The pressure, 993 millibars. Of course, that's still down from 1,001 that we saw yesterday, but the gusts are up there at 75 miles per hour, and we have reports from those platforms that are off in the Gulf of some wind gusts of around 71 miles per hour. So be advised, this storm system is packing a little bit of a punch, even though it's still a strong tropical storm. And it's even from the tropical storms. And remember, you really don't have to even have a named storm. Remember back in 2016, we had a no-name storm that just sat here and dumped copious amounts of rainfall and caused about, what, $10 to $15 billion in damage. So you don't have to have a named storm to do some problems. And exactly that's what we're going to be dealing with, at least hopefully no problems today. But the threat for some heavy rainfall you see later this afternoon, winds of 70 miles per hour. And this will be after landfall. And there's still a tropical storm as it makes its way toward folks in Lafayette, right along 49 Opelousas, traveling up the interstate. Then toward Alexandria, this will be at 1 a.m. The winds will start to diminish just a tad to around 50 miles per hour. Now, during this time period, as we travel during today, we're still on the fringes of this. Those bands will still be working in from the south and southeast, veering around toward the north, and then turn around at least back down toward the southwest. So, and this also will be affecting our neighbors over in the counties of Mississippi, and eventually this will start to work its way in toward the delta of Mississippi. And you can see area of low pressure. So, folks, if you have any travel plans, Ruston, Mendon, up toward at least Monroe, Lake Providence, and then you get into Lake Village, Arkansas, they're going to be receiving heavy rainfall over toward Greenville, Mississippi, and this will happen as we travel into Sunday at around 1 p.m. Still those winds at around 35 miles per hour. So currently on the Doppler, we see the significant band is now moving up toward the Gulfport, Biloxi area, and then we have, of course, that band will continue to be with those folks, bringing some significant rainfall as well as some wind gusts at around 50, even 60 miles per hour. And there's a broader view still showing the heaviest amounts of that rainfall that's down toward the south. And that wind, still a little bit breezy out there from the east at 22 miles per hour, causing all the delays that we're seeing at the major airports, especially at BTR. A lot of flights have been canceled this morning. We had one that's supposed to have been scheduled at 5:30, didn't take off, going to Houston. We have one at 6 o'clock. That's going to be traveling over toward Atlanta, Delta. That has now been delayed until 8:50. We can pop the map up at BTR to show you what we're talking about. And then we have a flight that's going to DFW at 6:17. That's been canceled. United to Houston, 725 has been canceled. And also Delta to Atlanta has been delayed until 7:30. So once again, a no-go at BTR. Make sure you call your airline just in case, because some of these could change. That's the way airlines work sometimes. Here we go. Tropical storm warning currently in effect for the entire area, including the Baton Rouge Metro, which means we're seeing those gusty winds out there, and that will continue to be the case all the way until about Sunday morning, so be advised on that. Storm surge watches and warnings are currently in effect because the storm system is about to make landfall as I speak, and that means that we can see a storm surge of around 3 to 5 feet, so be aware of that if you have loved ones living down. I heard there were about 600 people that's still on Grand Isle. Don't know why, but I guess they want to ride this out. But there you go. That's where we're seeing like a lot of power outages that are happening there along Grand Isle this morning. And we see the rainfall totals, that bullseye still moving a little bit further off toward the west and southwest of us here in the Baton Rouge. But still you see up toward St. Francisville, you can still see around about the 16 inches of rainfall, but most of us 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Be advised of that. I think we have a question here. This is from Michelle. I think we have it popped up on Facebook. Are you better off at I-20 and Satsuma or I-10 and Siegen in terms of flooding? Okay. I would say I-10 and Siegen. I remember back in the 2016, there was a whole hoopla about the median going down the interstate and all that things. I'm not going to get into that on air, you know, about that. But I would say I would go toward I-10 and Siegen. So I don't want to ruffle any feathers this morning. Thank you very much. Brooke, what time will people need to close businesses to get employees home safely? Well, I would say the businesses can stay open right now because the rainfall is still about a couple of hours away. This rainfall will start to crank up across the area as I go back toward the Doppler to show you what we're talking about a little bit later this morning. Now, the heaviest bands right now, that's more thunderstorm activity. That's off toward the east of us, but still the heavy bands extend down toward the south of us. This is some heavy rainfall, folks, and then it extends all the way to the south of that. The radar is not going down that far. But this will start moving in later this morning. I would say around about 9, 10. It will be with us because all this will be wrapping in as the storm system still has a move off toward the north for this to get through here. So it's going to be a while. So, and the businesses out there, I don't know how you operate your business, but, you know, if you want to get those employees home, you can keep them open this morning, but try to get them home at least by noon or so, especially as we travel into the evening hours, because that's when the heavy rainfall will take hold, and respecting those rivers just really start going up as we travel into your Sunday. So I hope I answered your question there. I'm going to run back over here to see if we got anything else. We have Lakeisha. Would anything be open today? I think there are places open I think we had some folks here in the studio going to get some food, so I think there are establishments that are open. I think McDonald's, Whataburger and all those places are open. I would say just call your establishment. I wouldn't say drive around or nothing like that today, because we want you to stay home and watch us. We'll keep you updated on all the information you need to know. But once again, we have that tropical storm warning, of course, in effect for everyone, with those wind gusts up to around 60 miles per hour. And that's bringing down a lot of trees and power lines. We had some power outages. When I was coming into work earlier this morning, around about 12 o'clock, I saw some flashes of light, and I'm like, well, there goes a limb on a power line there. And that's what happens here in Louisiana. And also, because of our soil and our trees, they don't have enough root system. It doesn't take that much for them to fall over and topple.
Right.
And that's what happens here. So, folks, be prepared. I hope you have some batteries and things like that. And also, batteries for your cell phones. Make sure you have a way to keep those cell phones charged.
Charge them up now while you can.
That's right. We're in the age of all that technology. There you go.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Well, we're going to continue our team coverage. We're checking in now with Courtney Williams. She is live out in Denham Springs, keeping an eye on Denham Springs, the Livingston Parish area. Courtney, what are you guys seeing out there this morning?
Good morning, Carly. Well, definitely seen a lot of wind picking up as I've been standing out here. The wind has definitely been picking up. I don't know if you can see the flag behind me has definitely been moving a lot. I'm here in front of Denham Springs City Hall. There's definitely sandbags in front of all the doors surrounding the building. One thing I want to let everyone know is that there is a shelter open just in case you have to get there. That is South Walker Baptist Church here in Denham Springs. That's located at 13719 Hammock Road. Again, I talked with someone earlier with the city, and they said that shelter is open for anyone that needs to go there.
Courtney, so you've been out there maybe 30 minutes, an hour or so. Have you seen any changes? You mentioned the wind. Is it getting stronger, or has it just kind of been blowing while you've been out there this morning?
Well, it's definitely been getting stronger as time has gone on. There hasn't been much rain outside, but the wind has definitely been picking up as I've been out here.
And you said you were told South Walker Baptist is the shelter that's open for folks in Livingston if they need to go somewhere?
Yes, and that shelter is located at 13719 Hammock Road. I will be posting that to social media just to get the word out about that. That is at South Walker Baptist Church here in Denham Springs.
Hey, Courtney, this is Kevin. I want to ask you a question about the folks in Denham Springs. They are concerned about the Amey River. I think if we can place that graphic up, and I'm going to talk to you right now about what's going on with the Amey River. It's actually under a flood warning right now. The river is holding in at 10.62 feet. We're expecting the river to rise all the way up to 41 feet. Now, that would be in major category as we move toward Tuesday and Wednesday. Are folks in Denham Springs, are they concerned about it? Have you heard anything this morning about that?
I haven't heard anything as of yet. You know, people here are just bracing for the storm and kind of just hoping for the best at this point.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Courtney. And, of course, I also want to advise you, as I told earlier this morning, about the rainfall. It's still about a couple of hours away from you, even though it's windy out there and no rainfall right now. The next couple of hours, things will start to change drastically. There you go.
All right, Courtney, thank you. Be sure to stay safe out there.
Yes.
So, Kevin, if people are just joining us this morning, just now waking up, has anything changed overnight? Let's kind of backtrack and update our viewers that are just now joining us.
Well, the status quo continues with Barry. The winds are still at 65 miles per hour. It's holding its own. The pressure is still at 993 millibars, which means it's not has intensified all that much. The only, I have to say, two changes that are happening with this storm system is that it's really starting to, I want to say, weaken. It's dry air is trying to infiltrate it. It's really just holding its own. Also, that heavy rainfall threat is shifting more toward the west and southwest of us here in the Baton Rouge area. You see on that Doppler warning as well as the Doppler radar. And you also see that dry air is causing those cells, at least the significant cells, to pop up toward the east of us, and that's some good news. We're still expecting the heavy rainfall to start moving in later this morning. They'll be setting up, and you see right now that's the setup of what's happening with our storm. Right now, I would say about 49 to 50 miles now to the southwest of Morgan City because it's tracking along at around 5 miles per hour. So here's the path of this storm system. Still expecting landfall next couple of hours. I would say between 7 to 9 o'clock this morning, and then around 1 p.m. They're trying to show this on the map, but remember this is off for just a little tad. But at around 1 p.m. this will be toward Pavilion Bay to the north of that with winds of 70 miles per hour. Also another change, that's the second one I was thinking of. This is not going to be a Category 1 hurricane. Remember yesterday we had this winds at 75 miles per hour, the Cat 1. It appears this just would be a strong tropical storm. And then as we move toward a Sunday overnight, this will be early on Sunday morning, still winds at 50 miles per hour. That will be up toward Alexandria. And then as we move into around Sunday afternoon, area of low pressure, that would be near the state line into Arkansas and then traveling up toward El Dorado and then into Little Rock and then pushing off toward the north and east of that end to the Show Me State of Missouri. And as I said earlier, the pressure is still holding in at 993 millibars. So that's still holding steady, and we don't want that pressure to drop, everyone, because when that pressure drops, that means the storm system is getting a little stronger, and we don't want that to happen across the area. Meanwhile, the winds have been a factor here in Baton Rouge, and right now we're holding in the east at 22 miles per hour, producing some power outages, and we see them, they're sporadic right now on the Entergy map on the screen. And we have reports about, I think about folks there to the southeast, right on Burbank. We have some outages there. Same story is happening over toward the Seagan area. And here we go. We have reports. This is into East Baton Rouge Parish. We have now 3,400 people that now is, and it keeps going up. And also in Jefferson Parish, we have about 10,000 folks that are without power. And then it keeps going down. St. Charles Parish, about 2,800. Tangipahoa Parish, 1,500. And there we go. So, I mean, they keep going up, especially looking at that map off toward the south of us along the Gulf Coast. And there's just a lot of folks down toward Donaldsonville, Napoleonville, right along LA1, extending down toward the south, because this is where we're seeing the brunt of the storm, because this is where the storm system, at least the significant center of circulation, is moving, and that's where you're going to see most of the significant damage that's happening with this storm system. So that's indeed energy. At least that map is showing, telling the tale of the power outages. And if we continue to see this, especially in the Baton Rouge area, with those winds will start to pick up as this storm system nears landfall. So currently on the Doppler, the last 18 hours still indicating the significant rainfall is off toward the south of us, and that bulk of precipitation will take its time getting here, and once it gets here, it's going to be with us for a while. But the feeder bands of the heaviest rainfall, that's off toward the east of us, and that's moving into Mobile and at least also in the Gulfport, Biloxi, right along Interstate 12. We're seeing some heavy rainfall with that. And then, of course, some lightning strikes in association with the area of low pressure. I actually want to go back and show some with this. See how this is just eating away? That's that dry air just eating away on the western side of this storm system, and really just the rainfall is now becoming more toward the southwest, but this conveyor belt of moist air will eventually, all this will start to work its way in from the southwest, and that's why we're going to be dealing with the rainfall starting later this morning, tomorrow, into Monday. And that's why we have that threat for 5 to 10 inches of rainfall across the area. Some local folks even seeing up to 15, 16 inches of rain, as we saw there on the map, so be advised of that. With that in mind, still those rainfall totals, everyone expecting to be in excess, as I said, 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Still that bullseye of 20 inches is off toward the south and west of the metro area, and that's why we still have that flash flood watch in effect, so be advised of that. Still the Euro model indicating rainfall totals here in Baton Rouge averaging between 6 to around 13 inches of rainfall, and then up toward New Roads, St. Francisville, we're seeing those totals there at about 16 inches or so. So once again, that's going to be something else to see. And see if we have any more questions, anything. We just had something requested from someone who used to work here, but thank you very much, Amber. I hope everything's nice where you are. Thank you very much for that. The flash flood watch continues until Sunday. You see everyone highlighted with the parishes there, as well as our counties into Mississippi under this flash flood watch through Sunday. Once again, expecting that 5 to 10 inches of rainfall in excess of some higher amounts. And then once again, and the pressure still holding at 993 millibars. No change there. We don't want to see it drop any more. That means that this storm will continue to strengthen as it will move off toward the north and northwest of us. Live view of the DOTD cam. This is I-10 in Nicholson. Traffic moving okay. Actually, there's nothing out there, and that's why we want folks to stay home and just really survive the brunt of this storm as it will continue to push on through and will take its time, and in doing so. Meanwhile, the GFS model still indicating storm system passing off toward the west and southwest of us, and that's the American model, and the same story with the Euro model, keeping the storm system. But you still notice the bulk of that orange and red. That's some heavy bands moving across the Baton Rouge area. That's why we're still keeping that heavy rainfall threat with us at 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Some locally folks in 15 to 16 or so. And that's also why those river warnings are in effect for the Amie, the Comey, Tickfall, Tangipahoa rivers, and also expecting those to rise to at least well above flood stage. The Amie River there at Denham Springs expecting to rise up to 41 feet as we move into Tuesday into Wednesday morning. So everyone heed that. Remember your flash flood safety tips, everyone.
That's right. Do not drive in any standing water. If you see it, be sure to keep yourself safe. As Kevin said, just stay off the roadway as this rain starts to move in, if you can avoid that at all. So we're going to check in now with our Harrison Golden. He is live this morning here in Baton Rouge, keeping an eye on what we're seeing here in the capital city. I see the wind blowing there behind you, Harrison. Good morning to you. What's it looking like out there?
Carly, good morning from a windy Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. And emergency prepared they are here just within the past hour since we got here. Overall, I've seen about 24 or so personnel with MOSEP alone walking in and out, and they are ready. The parking lot here outside MOSEP headquarters is stacked with personnel. I just want to, as we get an additional gust here, Chuck, if we can move that up, you can see those 3 poles up there. Typically, they'd be holding the flags, one of East Baton Rouge Parish, one of the United States of America, of course, and thirdly, to the right, the flag of the state of Louisiana. None of those flags are up, again, in anticipation of what we're seeing right now, and we're going to be seeing more of it, that wind here in Baton Rouge, all across the parish. And like I said here, MOSEP is ready on standby here. We've got, again, 24 or so personnel within the past hour alone walking in, and some of them, in fact, with toiletries, extra food, supplies. They're ready to hunker down for the next 24 hours or so, as some of them telling me they're ready to sleep here if they have to, as we're getting ready for the storm to, again, make landfall later this morning, and with it additional rains and a little bit of that wind as well here. But really the issue, as we've been talking about, and Kevin been talking about all morning long, that rain, that flood concern. But in the meantime here, Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome met with Governor John Bel Edwards yesterday, and really just to get an idea of what to expect here at the state and city parish levels. Just going to reiterate some of the closures here and precautions they're taking. Charles R. Kelly Community Center, that's on Riley Street here in Baton Rouge, that's being used as an emergency or community receiving center, as they've been putting it since 8 p.m. last night. They've been open, and they're still open right now. And as we've seen, DOTD and DPW crews here in Baton Rouge putting up those barricades, if you will, along I-110 and near the governor's mansion, of course, and all along Scenic Highway, parts of Bluebonnet, South Acadian. We've got an additional list for you as they warrant online. But really, this is the precautionary effort at this point. We're seeing some of those MOSEP officials here making the best of the situation now. The fact that the roadways are not flooded, they're coming in, and thankfully so. They're able to hunker down for the next little while to see what's going on. But again, if you're not working today, don't. If you don't have to drive today, don't. And of course, more precautions along the way here from the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Carly.
Harrison, yeah, I hear the wind blowing out there. What has the weather, have you seen any significant changes since you've been set up there at MOSEP?
Yeah, I mean, just at this point, on and off between drizzle and rain. We had a little bit of heavier rain as we were coming in around, I would say, 5:15 we got here. and in that half-hour drive from our headquarters near Perkins Road, a little bit of heavier precipitation down there. But for the most part, it's been the wind. It actually was knocking our light back and forth for a little while here, tightening it up and ready to go all morning long. But that's really the thing to watch out for now, and ultimately that'll be the question, whether this becomes a hurricane or tropical storm, that wind. But again, it's that rain that, regardless of title here, Carly, that's going to be the concern for Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Harrison, I got a question for you. Are the folks there, are they in contact with any closures or anything along the Comey and the Amy rivers? Because we're expecting those rivers to go in major flood stage as we move into Monday into Tuesday.
Yeah, Kevin, of course, they got those maps ready and rearing to go. Fire personnel, police, EMS crews, just all on standby here. To say nothing of the cars and personnel here at MOSEP, we've got additional fleets just to the other side of me here, to my left, of EMS trucks, fire trucks, and police just ready to come and figure out what's going on. Additionally, watching the Amy and Comey in particular here, that's the real concern. And again, in casual conversations off camera that I've been having with MOSEP officials, that's going to be what they have their eye on for the next few hours.
Harrison, have you heard anything since you are there at MOSEP? A lot of officials coming in and out as they get ready to prepare for this storm. Have they mentioned any updates? Are they planning on holding any news conferences later today to update the parish and the city as we continue to brace for this storm?
No word on any updates at the moment, although I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if we were to hear some additional updates later today. I know the governor, just a little bit further downtown here in Baton Rouge, Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness will be delivering a 12:30 news conference, and before that, an 11 a.m. Meeting of essentially what he calls the Unified Command Group, really the who's who in emergency preparedness across the state. I wouldn't be surprised if some Baton Rouge leaders and officials snuck into that meeting and had their conversation with them as well.
You can indeed hear that wind blowing out there with Harrison this morning. So Harrison, please be careful out there. The wind right now a factor across the area. We're receiving a lot of power outages, and indeed we're going to be checking in with you a little bit later this morning.
All right, Harrison, thank you. Stay
You're
safe
welcome.
out there this morning.
There we go, live view of what's happening down there into the New Orleans area. Still some heavy rainfall that is occurring there, but most of the significant rain, though, is still into the Gulf of Mexico, expecting landfall to occur within the next 3 to 4 hours at Vermilion Bay. And it looks like that would be ground zero for this storm system making landfall as a tropical storm. And right now, the winds are holding in at 65 miles per hour. It's moving to the west-northwest at 5 miles per hour, producing significant heavy rainfall. And you see that last scope there, and that severe weather threat is now moving with those bands to the east of us. You see there moving into the Mobile area as well as Gulfport and Biloxi. But right now, with that dry air trying to take over this storm system, it's at least the heaviest rainfall is staying down toward the south, but that eventually will start to work its way in. Let's get to those temperatures of what's happening out the door. Many of you just waking up. Some of you waking up right now. We're at 77 degrees. That's a lot of rain-cooled air. 79 into Hammond, 80 Slidell, and of course 82 degrees into New Orleans. Now the tropical models, of course, they've been varying day after day. It happens with these storm systems. Remember, I joined you yesterday, and they had all of these spaghetti models over the Baton Rouge area. Now they're pushing further to the west. Good news for us, but the bad news is that the further west it goes, we're still going to be dealing with those bands of heavy rainfall that's going to be moving across the Baton Rouge area. We actually need the storm system to go that way to the east, and we'd be on the good side, the western side of that, but we still see those, at least the spaghetti plots are taking the storm system right toward the I-49 corridor. About the bad news today, we have at least the yellow across the area, weather aware day in effect. Primary threats, that heavy rainfall. We're still talking about between 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Some localized areas, especially to the west of us, even into the metro, around 13 to 16, 17 inches of rainfall. Not ruled out across. And then the further east you go, the rainfall totals will be a little bit lighter. But then again, we have those heavy bands that are now setting up along the Pearl River as you extend into Mississippi and Alabama. And also on your Sunday, another weather aware day. We have that general thunderstorm risk, and then off toward the north and west of us, that's a marginal risk, even that threat for more isolated tornadoes. So once again, know those tornadoes tornado safety tip. So weather aware days the next few days with rain chances at 100%, 82 degrees today. Rain cooled air, same story on your Sunday, 83. Monday, mostly cloudy with the rain chances around 50% as this storm system is still drawing in a lot of moist air as it starts to get out of here. And even on Tuesday, the rain chances 40%, but temperatures start to moderate into the upper 80s. Some folks reaching the lower 90s. We will hit the lower 90s on Wednesday because we'll see more sunshine, and then we're back to typical summertime weather with the rain chances at 30% and the afternoon highs by that time into the lower 90s. And we'll see those overnight lows because of all the rainfall we have received will be into the lower 90, actually after the mid 70s, and those afternoon highs will be into the lower 90s. Let's take a look at what's happening with the power outages right now across the area. Still experiencing sporadic power outages here in the Baton Rouge Metro, and we told you about the outages that were happening here in East Baton Rouge Parish as well. The bullseye now toward Donaldsonville. We have a lot of outages there. Extending down toward Napoleonville, and then as you make your way down toward LA1, all the way into the Grand Isle area, because that is the area where the storm system is moving on shore at Vermilion Bay. At least we're expecting still around about 7 to 9 o'clock, at least the storm system will be moving on shore with those strong winds now sustained at 65 with those gusts of 75 miles per hour. And once again, we have that path you see on your screen and where the storm system is going to be moving as we travel into your Sunday as well as your Monday. But it will be moving away from the Baton Rouge area, at least the significant of the center of circulation, or we call the eye, if you want to call it that, away from us. And we go toward a live view into New Orleans right now, where they're dealing with that mostly cloudy sky. And same story we're dealing with here in the capital city. And then to the south of them, we have the heavy rainfall that we're experiencing on the Doppler radar. But it's going to be that heavy rainfall that's going to be taking its time getting here, Carly and everyone, that will bring us that threat for some heavy rainfall across the area. Really, the threat, of course, we talked about this along the Amey and the Comey rivers of what's going to be happening there. And as we go toward that map, and you're going to see a lot of dots that are popping up on your screen, and we're now going to zoom in toward the folks. I know Harrison was alluding to this along the Comey River, of how MOSEP is preparing for things that are going to be happening along that. It's here at Joy Road. Right now, we're expecting it still to rise to 34.5 feet as we move into around Monday into Tuesday. And you see that the record is at 34.2 feet, and that would be above that. So residents that live in that area, I hope you have sandbags have already been prepared, as well as, I mean, with a major situation like that, you probably need to evacuate. There you go. What folks have been going out to all of the, that's just live now in the Denham Springs right now. So folks are still out getting sandbags. Good for you. You need to do that. Especially speaking of Denham Springs, we go back toward the map to take a look at what's happening with the Comey, actually the Amey River over at Denham Springs. We're expecting that also to be at major flood stage, and the actual flood stage is at 29 feet. We're expecting it to rise to 41 feet as we move into Tuesday and Wednesday. And you see, Carly, that is well into that purple color. Well, at least nowhere near the record of 46.2 feet, but I know in my neighborhood, for example, when it hits 41 feet, that's a lot of water, and that's about 3 or 4 feet of water in someone's home. So, and probably in your home as well, you know. So, I mean, this is very important, folks. If you live along those rivers, those river basins, not only the Comey, the Amey, the Tickfall, the Tangipahoa Parish river basins, be advised you're all under river flood warnings this morning, as well as the Mississippi River, 250 days plus. We've been having the warnings along that. We're not expecting any major flooding along that, but still just be advised as this storm system goes up to the north of us, eventually all that water in the Ohio River Valley will start to work its way down south here into the Baton Rouge area.
And with all the rain, of course, here in the capital city, we are no stranger to flooding, flash flooding especially. You can see our live picture there of some folks out in Denham Spring getting those sandbags right now. You do have a little bit of time. We're expecting landfall between 7 and 9, so if you're waking up and you're wanting to go get some sandbags or some last-minute items, now's the time to do that before the rain and all hits our area. If we do experience some flooding, which I'm guessing, Kevin, we will be seeing some of that
Yes.
around the area.
We will see that because, as you see on the Doppler, the precipitation band, it's this heavy activity that's down toward the south of us. Even though in the northern sectors, where we've been at for the last few days, we have experienced just a few sporadic bands that have been pushing through. The significant activity has been in the southern side of this storm system because the northern side has been eaten up. It's been getting eaten up by dry air. And that caused us a couple of days ago, remember on Thursday and the day before that, we topped up to 97 degrees. That's what dry air would do for you, heat you up. Yesterday we topped that at 90 because we had more cloud cover, and also some moisture levels went down just a tad. But now you're starting to see that dry air is trying to infiltrate the western side of this storm system. That's why the rainfall is being cut off. Usually in a typical tropical system, you have rain all the way around the system, and you have a little bit of a tight circulation here. You have a little bit of called the center circulation of the eye, and you have an eye wall from that. But this is every system is different, and this one is indeed unique. So all the rainfall once again is on the southern side, and also with these dry air moving into these storm systems, the rain bands, instead of being compact in the center, they're now being pushed out away from it, and you're starting to see the heaviest bands now setting up back toward Gulfport, Biloxi, extending into Mobile, and even some of these bands are moving toward Panama City, Florida. That's well to the east of us, but Mobile right now has been receiving a good brunt of this, and they have another heavy band that's going to be moving up their way within the next couple of hours or so. But right now, looking at this radar site, we're ahead of a little lightning strikes, but they're now starting to come down, which means that this storm system is becoming more ragged as it moves on shore, because actually it's filling the shore right now. And also it's moving into some shallow waters, even though it's deep. Well, you get into a swimming pool, it's deeper than that, but of course, as you get well into the Gulf of Mexico, you have those deeper waters, which are just fuel for this system to develop and intensify. But as it's filling that shore, this system will start to at least drop in intensity as we travel into that. Meanwhile, we're at 77. The wind, at least now, is at 18 miles per hour. We have received those gusts, and you saw Harrison doing that live shot, and you heard the wind blowing on his microphone because the winds are a little bit breezy out there. And we're expecting those winds to continue to at least intensify as we move later in the morning to around 25 to 35 miles per hour. With that in mind, that's why we have that tropical storm warning, and in fact for the entire metro area. And also with that wind, if you're going to be traveling, especially along on the DOTD cam, along the Mississippi River Bridge, be advised when you go up that high, especially if you're in like those towers, the higher you go up, the stronger the wind gets. It actually multiplies many miles per hour as you go up, about 5 miles per hour the higher you go up. So when you're crossing that Mississippi River Bridge, be advised the wind's going to be a little bit stronger. If the wind says about 25 miles per hour, it's going to feel like about 35 to 40 miles per hour. So everyone, please ma'am, please sir, when you are traveling, if you can, punch me up on that DOTD cam and put it over here in the 3x3 if we can. I just want to show folks, when you are traveling along these thoroughfares in the west and eastbound lanes, not only the Mississippi River Bridge, but the US 190 bridge or the Sunshine Bridge. Hopefully you won't be traveling any bridge this morning. Just remember to hold on to the steering wheel, to those SUVs and the cars, because I was coming into work this morning, especially when you're going against that wind, at least from the northwest toward the southeast, it's going to try to veer your car away. You just hold on to the steering wheel, you'll be good to go. But once again, if you don't have to travel, the winds will get a little worse later today, and we'll start to see those winds picking up, especially with those gusts at around 60 to 70 miles per hour. Back to the maps we go. Once again, the tropical storm warning is in effect. That's why, because of the winds that are out there. And also, we're going to continue to see the heavy rainfall threat. Storm surge is now occurring down toward the south of us, a 3 to a 5 foot storm surge with that in mind. And yes, the rainfall. Let's get to that. Here we go, the bullseyes. Earlier, they were back toward Baton Rouge, extending into Livingston and Ascension Parish. They have now pushed off toward the west and southwest of us. And notice the blacks are starting to decrease in coverage. Now, that's the way we want to see it, but still black is, at least that color there on this scale, still at 20 inches or so. Yesterday, we had that blue scale, which is way up there at 25 inches. That's now going away. But some folks, St. Francisville, New Roads, extending down toward the south, even to the, at least the south near Livonia, we're still seeing that scale at around 16 inches of rainfall. I'm going locally, 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Some folks locally, there's some embedded areas, 15, 16, and 17 inches of rainfall. And we see on this Futurecast, this is one of many models. We have the Euro, the GFS, the NAM, and the RPM. This model, one of many. And the RPM was indicating around about 9 to 10 inches of rainfall. This model indicating around about 6 to 13, even 15 inches of rainfall. So we're right in that category because this will be the bulk where the storm system travels. And you see that band extending all the way up into the Natchez area, into Vicksburg, Mississippi. That's why we have the flash flood watch for everyone, not only our area, but points to the west. We're talking about Opelousas, Alexandria, Lafayette, even toward Jennings, points toward the south and east. New Orleans points toward the east. Hammond, Mandeville, Covington, Slidell, and points even toward the northeast, Bogalusa, and to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So here we go with the wind, still holding in at 65 miles per hour. The last stat, at least advisory we have, is at 4 a.m. We're going to have another advisory coming up here as we near the 7 and 8 o'clock hour. The winds are still at least at around gusts of 75 miles per hour. The movement to the west-northwest, 5 miles per hour, with the pressure holding steady at 93, will make landfall as a very strong tropical storm. Winds of 70 miles per hour with some higher gusts to that at around 80 miles per hour. And then we'll move off toward the I-49 corridor, and then we'll dump a lot of rainfall across the entire state. So be advised, everyone, just to be advised, it's a heavy rainfall threat that this storm system will pose. And a lot of folks, Carly and everyone, they don't die from the tornadoes, they die from the flooding. And it's like the #1 killer of folks. So if you don't have to be out traveling today, tomorrow, and to Monday, just stay home and let us tell you what's happening out there, and also leave it to the law enforcement folks because they don't want them to go out there and endanger their lives trying to save you. There you go. So here we go with the Entergy map to take a look at what's happening with all the power outages that we're experiencing, not only here in the Baton Rouge area, but across Hammond and down into the Crescent City. And you see there have power outages, but really the story is right to the south of us, from Donaldsonville extending all the way down into Grand Isle. And as I said earlier, I heard there were 600 people who were camped out at Grand Isle. They have no power right now. The whole island is out, because right now they're getting bombarded with wind gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour. And of course, that infrastructure cannot handle that. So once again, those models indicating this storm system will continue to push on through. That was the GFS model showing that our area of low pressure, a tropical storm Barry, moving off toward the west and southwest of us. And the same story is happening on the Euro model, taking everything away from us. I want to advise everyone with these tropical storms, because of all the spin in the atmosphere, we have that threat for some isolated tornadoes. That will continue to be the case as we move into the next 24 hours. So everyone be advised on that. That tornadic threat is up there, especially in some of these severe bands that we're experiencing. Right now, they're off toward the east of us as you make your way into Mississippi and Alabama. But eventually, as that storm system, at least the center of circulation, moves toward the area, we'll start to see more and more of that tornadic threat breaking out across the Baton Rouge area. So once again, I want to advise everyone, you still see the camera shaking there into New Orleans, where they're seeing now those wind gusts around 60 miles per hour. And eventually those winds will start to work their way into the Baton Rouge area. Right now, we're just seeing those winds sustained, at least at the airport from the east, at 18 miles per hour with the dew point of 73. But those gusts are picking up there to around 30 to 35 miles per hour. And as I said, Carly and everyone, I won't say the good thing about the storm, so I can't say that. I guess you do that, I guess, because the dry air is trying to tear the storm system apart. So that's a silver lining. And also, the storm system, they really did not have enough time to really get organized enough, but still it's packing its punch, because all of that rain is still on the southern side of this storm system, as we see on the radar, and it's picking up a lot of that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, because we're dealing with some water temperatures there into the mid to upper 80s. And once again, that's fuel for this copious amounts of moisture that will continue to push into the area, therefore feeding the rain all the way through tomorrow as well as into Monday. And then finally, the rainfall will start to taper off as we move into around next week, when we're back to a typical pattern of daytime heating, rain chances. And by that time, we'll say, woof, this has been a battle that we've been dealing with here in the Baton Rouge area. But once again, heavy rainfall threat moving in. It's not doing that much now here in the Baton Rouge area, but just a lot of wind. But then again, don't get out and survey the damage, because it doesn't take much for those trees to topple a limb, and it would knock you, do some damage not only to yourself. So just be careful out there. Don't get out there. And also, you are the eyes and ears to get any footage or anything like that, but please don't endanger yourself and others when trying to get us some video here to the station, so be advised on that.
And that's right. Yeah, you can always send stuff to our newsroom at our brproud.com. You can also send us things on Facebook as well. If you see anything, as Kevin mentioned, make sure you're in a safe place. But if you are able to snap some pictures or some video of any damage happening in or around your area, be sure to send that over to us so we know where to send our crews to help bring you guys the latest information. We're going to head back out in the field and check in on our Courtney Williams. She is live in Denham Springs. She's at a sandbag location. It looks like a couple people have made their way over there this morning. Courtney, good morning.
Good morning, Carly. Yes, we're still here in Denham Springs. There are actually 2 sandbag locations. As you can see behind me, there are people still gathering those sandbags. Now, this location that I'm at now is located right across from the old City Hall. That's at 930 Government Drive. The other sandbag location is on Railroad Avenue behind James Drugstore. You can still come out and get those sandbags as you prepare for Tropical Storm Barry. And I talked with Emergency Operations Center officials, and they said they're still just keeping track of the storm. They said they haven't got many calls just about concerns about the as the storm moves closer in. As you can see, the wind is been picking up all morning, and it's only getting heavier as the morning has been going on. Also want to mention there is an active shelter that is open, that is at South Walker Baptist Church, that's located at 13719 on Hammock Road. So again, if you need to seek shelter, that's the place to go here in Denham Springs. And also, if you need to pick up sandbags, you could come to either location to do so.
Hey, Courtney, I wanted to ask a question. When you were going to the live shot, did you see a lot of folks out on the roadways?
There wasn't a lot of people on the roads as we were driving to this location from City Hall. I can definitely see a lot of just little tree limbs just on the roads, just because of the heavy winds.
And Courtney, since you've been out there, have you been able to speak to any of those people that are out there filling the sandbags? What are their concerns? What's the people, the community, concerned about this morning? Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything just yet. When I talk with EOC officials, there haven't been many calls that have come in. No one's really been as concerned. I guess kind of just waiting it out like we've all been all morning, just as Barry moves in closer.
All right, Courtney. Kevin, you have anything?
Well, I just want to say, folks out there, are there a lot of folks out there this morning preparing with those sandbags? I know I actually had my neighbor, I think he went to that location to get some sandbags yesterday.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of people out here just getting those sandbags and just getting ready for the storm.
Yeah, that's right. I think this is, like I said, this is the calm before the storm. I think everyone is sitting back waiting for this rain event to happen. And I must say, Courtney, if you do talk to some folks out there, just tell them the heavy rainfall is still hours away. It will be arriving later this afternoon into the evening hours. There you go. Thank you very much, Courtney. All right, everyone. Some folks have been calling in actually asking about the Mississippi River. Let's take a look right now at the stats and what's going to be happening with that. We've been really focusing on the Comey and the Amy rivers, of course, but right now the Mississippi River, this is at Baton Rouge, we're expecting the river to actually go up just a tad. And right now it's at 42.45 feet as of 5 a.m. We're expecting it just to rise just a bit to around 43 feet. Then it's actually going to be dropping down, actually well below, as we take a look at the end of July. So be aware of that for the Mississippi River. But not the case, at least along the Amy and the Comey rivers. We're expecting those rivers to continue to rise. And as I always say, as we go back to the Doppler during the last 18 hours, the problem with those rivers is that they eventually will feed into Lake Pontchartrain. unlike them feeding into the Mississippi River. Now, what's going to be happening with that wind that's now blowing in very breezy this morning from the east and southeast? That means all this water that's supposed to go this way is going the opposite way, back into the Comey and the Amy rivers. Therefore, we call this backwater flooding. That would become a possibility, some similar to what happens with all these tropical systems. So folks living along those thoroughfares like Denham Springs down toward at least Port Vincent, extending down toward the south. Same story along the Tangipahoa rivers and also the Tickfaw rivers. Be advised, that's why you're under the river warnings this morning, expecting those to crest at major flood stages. But right now, not that much happening across us here in the Baton Rouge area as of yet. And you saw the live shots from Courtney and Harrison and everyone this morning. Just nothing but a lot of wind out there. Most of the significant storm system is still well to the south of us. And you see the rainfall right there. And a lot of this is still off the radar scope because there's really not that much radar into the Gulf of Mexico. And you're also starting to see the last few scans here. The lightning strikes have come down. That signalizes that the storm system is either A, the dry air is really taking over, or B, it's going through a metamorphosis. These storm systems go through these cycles, and that's probably what's happening with this one, as it's now starting to fill Vermilion Bay because it's about to move on, make landfall here within the next few hours or so. And also, the heavier bands are now setting away from the center, well away from the center of circulation as you make your way. And this band about right here, we'll be moving up toward the state line of Alabama and Mississippi, and that'll be moving back toward Mobile, where they don't need anymore because earlier this morning they had a wind gust of around 59 to 60 miles per hour at the airport. And that's where the significant, at least threat for tornadoes are popping up. And you even see another lightning strike has now popped up in that band off toward the southwest, and that's moving up toward the Pensacola area. And that would be traveling well to the east of us. So once again, the wind factor now from the east, 18 miles per hour. We had that gust of around 20, 30 miles per hour here at the station as well as the airport with a temperature of 77 degrees. And you see it from the tower cam. We're dealing with those low visibilities with some showers, but the reason it looks so misty because the wind is blowing that mist around, therefore it looks pretty ominous. Once again, I advise you if you are traveling this morning, shouldn't be, hold on to those steering wheels because of the wind. And with the wind, that's why we have all the red popping up. Tropical storm warning in effect for everyone and across the metro, and that will continue to be the case all the way through Sunday morning. And right now we're experiencing a storm surge that's happening off toward the south of us, right along, this is making your way toward the Gulf Coast and also into the at least North Shore, and that's what we're experiencing right now. And we also have that live view. This is looking back toward Lake Pontchartrain, and you see that water is going to be working in from the south and east, and eventually that water is going to start have a backup that eventually start to work its way back toward the Amy and the Comey rivers. On top of that, we have the other threat, the rainfall. Still expecting between 5 to 10 inches of rainfall, but right now it's a wait and see. These things we're doing right now is that main bulk of precipitation is still well into the Gulf of Mexico, and we still see that Euro model indicating rainfall totals still in excess of 6, 7, up to around 13 inches of rain. Some folks even saying 15 to 16. I'm going between 5 to 10 with those local isolated amounts of around 15 to 16. I want to remind everyone of those flash flood safety tips of what you need to do today, extending all the way into about Monday and Tuesday, especially when many of these rivers will start to crest. Carly and everyone, we need to realize that even though the rain will start today into tomorrow, it's going to take a while for all that runoff to start getting into the rivers, and then the rivers will start to rise. I know from 2016 stories of folks living, especially along the Amy River, that the water came up so fast in a period of time. You know, it rained, and then finally the water started backing up through the sewer system, and then actually the drain system, the sewer pipes, and then they finally started, coming up from behind them. So that probably would be a case. Hope nothing like that appears like 2016, and I'm expecting anything like that, but still a major flood is expected along the Amy and the Comey rivers as well as the Tickfaw and the Tangipahoa rivers. Tornado safety tips, make sure you know those because we have that threat for isolated tornadoes as we travel into the next few days because these bands can spawn because there's a lot of rotation out there, some isolated tornadoes. Make sure you have your emergency supplies available like water and batteries. Make sure you have that evacuation plan just in case. Make sure you have the supplies as well as for your pets because with this storm system, things could change as they always do. So here we go with the Futurecast. Around about this morning, not that far from now, we start to see those bands moving in, and you saw there at a good clip, at least at around 1:30, noon or so. We saw those bands will continue to push in from the southwest, place it into motion one more time, and we go up toward around 8:30, and you still see as the storm system is still moving on to shore. It will take us a little bit of time as it moves toward the Lafayette area, still bringing those bands in from the south and southeast as we move into the overnight. Periods of showers and thunderstorms. Most of this would just be some heavy rainfall with some rumbles of thunder. Not expecting anything, at least in the form of significant rumbles of thunder. But then again, as we travel into around noon tomorrow, still some spotty bands moving in and about the area. And then another wave will try to push on through for your Sunday evening. And then the same story will continue into Monday overnight. And then finally, things will start to get out of here as we push into Monday night and to Tuesday. So the next 12 hours, temperatures really holding their own and to the upper 70s into the lower 80s with the cloud cover and the rainfall and the wind. And there we go. And the rainfall coverage will be at about 90 to 100%. And you see how at least the rain is slanted because of the tropical storm warning in effect, which means that, yes, the wind will be with us and also that threat for some isolated tornadoes across the area. Meanwhile, you think it's shaking here. If we go down toward I-10, at least into the New Orleans area, and you see how that camera on the DOTD cam is just shaking because they're dealing with some wind gusts, at least into the Crescent City, now holding in at around 50 miles per hour or so. So be advised of that. As we get to your 7-day forecast to take a look at what we're expecting beyond Tropical Storm Barry, as soon as we get into Tuesday, we transition back to 40% rain chances with high temperatures at least flirting with around 90 degrees, and then 30% rain chances as we move into Wednesday, Thursday, and to Friday. And then even beyond that, our rain chances will still hover at around 30%. Not seeing any major problems with that, just back to daytime heating rain chances. Meanwhile, we have another view of what's happening. This is Lake Pontchartrain, and you see some, I think the folks are doing a live shot there. I was about to get on my soapbox, Carly, and say what are they doing out there, but hey, they are working. So there you go. There are no complaints there. Meanwhile, live view of our tower cam showing, of course, the visibility is being reduced because of the little bit of some sprinkles that are out there, and the wind is blowing the sprinkles around. That's why you can't see the downtown skyline there in the distance, and this will continue to be the case as we travel throughout today. Meanwhile, I want to point something out, and I want everybody to get alarmed. Of course, that's Tropical Storm Barry that we're dealing with this morning. Off toward the south and east, we have, count them, a tropical wave that's now moving in, and this wave, if you point me back onto the map here on the BAM, this wave about right here now has about a 20% chance of development. It's moving toward the west-northwest and will continue its path back toward the Caribbean Sea eventually, and we have to keep our eye on this because this could become a factor down the road. So everyone take note of that. But that's still a ways away, and then we have more waves that are lining up behind that. Remember earlier we were talking about the Saharan dust that was inhibiting any kind of tropical development. That's now out of here, gone away. That's why we're starting to see these storm systems, these waves now coming in, and they will start coming in right and left because, Carly and everyone, we're now moving into that time of year when these waves become more ominous, and eventually we start peaking out as we move into Labor Day weekend. And once again, Tropical Storm Barry, the winds are at 65 with some gusts of around 75 miles per hour. There you go.
All right, Kevin, thank you. We do have a couple of reminders for you guys this morning. There are some parishes that are currently under a curfew, of course, because of Tropical Storm Barry. St. Martin Parish is under a curfew from now until tomorrow morning at 7. St. Landry Parish also under a curfew today at noon until Sunday at 6. And Terrebonne Parish this morning starting at 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. tonight. So be sure to keep that in mind if you're heading to any of those parishes or have loved ones in those areas. Make sure they're aware of those curfews and that they are at home and in a safe place when they are expected to. We also have a couple of other reminders just to keep yourself informed. Once this rain event gets underway, if we do start to see some flash flooding here in our area, of course, we know the troubled spots there under Acadian, around the Governor's Mansion, all those typical areas that seem to gather a lot of water.
Horseshoe 2 Road.
That's right. We all know the troubled spots here in and around the capital city. If you are concerned about road closures, you can dial 511. They are updating that list constantly, especially if you're traveling, which we would advise not to travel today. No. But if you can avoid that, you can dial 511 to find those updates. You can also dial 211 if you are in need of shelter. That has an updated list of all the shelters that are open and operating, so you can find out exactly where you need to be for your city or for your parish. Again, that's 211. We have all this information on our website. And with Tropical Storm Barry, if you haven't already, it's a great time to download the BR Proud app. We're pushing out information constantly as it comes into our newsroom through that app. If you can't be in front of a television, that's a great way to get the latest information and updates as Tropical Storm Barry makes its way through. You can see the app right there. It is free. You can find it in the App Store as well as on Google Play. Again, a great tool to keep you and your family safe as we prepare for this storm. We have some more updates to inform you about post office closures. Of course, the post office will be closed today. You can see the areas that the post offices will be closed. If you are heading out to one of those today, they will be closed. Again, all of this information is on our website. Again, that's brproud.com. So we're getting closer to 7. Our time now is 6:34. Kevin, we're expecting the storm to make landfall between 7 and 9. I don't know what you're seeing right now. Could we see it at 7?
It's around about 7 o'clock or so. It's inching a little bit forward, but of course, when it moves, at least makes landfall, it really won't be much of a, usually when you make landfall, you have an eye and all that. This is a whole different ball game with this storm system. All the rainfall is in the southern part of the storm system, so it actually will make landfall, and then finally, I would say about an hour or so behind it, you'll start to see the rainfall really picking up, and eventually those bands will work their way in later this morning here in the Baton Rouge area. Even though a lot of folks will probably peeking out the door this morning saying, oh, it's not that bad, just the wind blowing. No, wait until later this morning into the afternoon. That's when the rain will start picking up, and it's going to be heavy, and that rain will continue all the way into Sunday and Monday, so be advised of that. And we have the sandbags. Folks are collecting sandbags because of that heavy rainfall threat, like places like into Denham Springs. We have our own Courtney Williams that's live out there this morning updating us on that situation. So if you need to go get some sandbags, you still can go out there and get some sandbags, at least some of the locations across the area. Just be advised, too, that the wind is a little bit on the breezy side. Watch out for some fallen trees and things like that. We've had reports of power outages this morning. We've showed the map, what's been going on with that. And it doesn't take that much for trees here across the capital city metro to fall, especially when you have a tropical storm warning that's currently in effect. Meanwhile, if you have a flight that's going to be traveling out toward BTR this morning, you see on your screen of all the flights that have been canceled or been delayed. And as we're approaching now 6:35, we have flights that are going to be coming up at 7:25. That of the United flight, that's 4013, that's going to be traveling toward Houston. It's been canceled, folks. There you go. And we have Delta flight number 3414 to Atlanta. It's scheduled to be at least at 7:30, but it's now been updated, at least rescheduled until 9:50. So be aware of that if you're traveling out of BTR this morning. Also, for you folks that are traveling down toward MSY, that's the Louis Armstrong Airport in New Orleans. This was a tweet from the airport, as well as Southwest Airlines. They have canceled all flights into the airport today. So if you had a flight toward Southwest, I'm sorry, you have to wait until to resume those flights. They're going to be resuming that on tomorrow, which will be July the 14th. You see there on your screen. Now, the reason for it is you go toward the map. Here, what's happening with Tropical Storm Barry that's causing all of the flight issues, not only here in BTR, but in Lafayette, down toward New Orleans, And the same story is going to be happening over toward Alexandria as we travel during the next 24 hours or so, and even extending back toward Mobile, because they've been receiving some significant bands this morning of some gusty winds, and most of that now has really been moving away from the Baton Rouge area. It will be this portion that we keep our eye on, because this is a lot of heavy rainfall and it extends well into the Gulf, and this is a big area, at least of rainfall, and all that would take its time getting across the Baton Rouge metro. That's why we have our flash flood watch in effect all the way until tomorrow, and that will probably be extended toward tomorrow night. So here's the latest. Gusts are now at 75. Still the pressure at 993 millibars. Now a strong tropical storm expecting landfall within the next couple of hours to Vermilion Bay, which will be off toward we're about right here, Baton Rouge. That will be to the southwest of us. We're talking about right along US 90. If you take that drive from Lafayette down toward Franklin and then Morgan City, and then you work your way back toward the New Orleans metro, right there along that, and you're already starting to see those those storm warnings in effect right now, because the storm system is about to make landfall. And it's also, we're finding all the power outages from Grand Isle working their way in back toward Franklin, because that's where they're seeing the strongest winds this morning, with some gusts over around 65 miles per hour, those gusts of 75, and then it would continue to work its way into the Lafayette area. Now, even though you have this cone here of uncertainties, where we always call this, some folks just draw this straight line, which means the storm systems could still move a little bit further to the east. Therefore, we have this line, or further to the west, back toward Jennings, actually in between near Lake Charles, back that way. But still, just have that center line of circulation, this is the line of uncertainty. And then as we move into Sunday, this will be Sunday morning early, we're still over Alexandria with winds of 50 miles per hour, then becoming an area of low pressure as it races off toward the state line into Arkansas, and then further to the north of that into Missouri as we move into next week, and then eventually that rainfall will work its way down toward the Mississippi River. Keep an eye on that. Speaking of rainfall, potential totals. Yes, the rainfall totals here in the Baton Rouge area still holding in at around 5 to 10 inches. Heavier amounts will be out toward the southwest of us. And you still see that bullseye of 20 inches on your scale. And right here, this white there, that's going to be at around 16 inches or so. That's why I'm going between 5 to 10 localized areas at around 15, 16 inches of rainfall. And even that Euro model still indicating between 6 to 13 inches of rainfall into the Baton Rouge area. The further east you go, lower rainfall totals, but that's changing right now because we're seeing those heavy bands setting up well away from the center. Sometimes it happens in these tropical systems, especially when you have dry air to work with. Here we go with the flash flood watch in effect. We see all the greens on your screen denoting that potential for some heavy rainfall not happening right now, but it will happen later today. Flash flood safety tips of what you need to do. We know that. So currently on the Doppler, there are your heavier bands that are setting up to the east of the area, and already lightning strikes are breaking out there. Now contrast those lightning strikes right now to the lightning strikes we had down to the south of us. They've now dissipated. Tropical storm warning remains in effect as well as right now. Those storm surge watches and warnings are currently in effect because the storm system is about right here, entering Vermilion Bay, about to make landfall about right there, well to the south and west of us. So we're still 77 degrees at the airport, 79 Gonzales, 82 New Orleans, 77 Opelousas, and we're 78 degrees in the Bogalusa. Once again, those forecast models, at least the spaghetti models, are indicating storm system taking it to the west of us, unlike the last few runs, and that's some good news for us, but we're still in that bad sector, keeping the rainfall, at least the heavy rainfall bands, toward our area as well. We're under that threat for some isolated tornadoes today. That means that slight risk into the yellow, so be advised of that, as well as some damaging winds. Speaking of wind, that's been a factor throughout the morning. We have that view from the Crescent City. This is down on Canal Street, and you see there the palm trees just blowing in the wind. Now, this was the same area on Wednesday that saw flooding. We had water that was over some of the car tires there, but you can see in these urban areas, I mean, the water can rise very quickly and it also can drop very quickly. We know that story from a couple of weeks ago here in the Baton Rouge area. But once again, with those heavy bands moving in, that will continue to be the case not only for those folks, but for us here in the Baton Rouge area. Meanwhile, as we push into your Sunday, another weather-aware day will be in effect. General thunderstorm risk, potential for the brief heavy rainfall as well as some gusty winds because of the storm system that's going to be moving in, at least moving out of here, and we see we'll start to slowly dry things out. It's going to take a while with the rain chances today at 100%, 90% as we move into Sunday. By Monday, the rain chances at 50%, and then we'll start to see those rain chances coming down to 40 to 30% as we take a look at that, and also those high temperatures will start to moderate into the 90s and those overnight lows into the 70s, Carly. So everyone, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but first we got to get there. And of course, with that, let's go to the latest on what's happening with Barry. We're about to come up with a new advisory here pretty soon. Still waiting on that, but the winds are still at 65 miles per hour with those gusts at around 75 miles per hour. And it's still moving to the west, northwest, 5 miles per hour, expecting that landfall within the next couple of hours at Vermilion Bay. Now, traffic, if you want to call it that, on the DOTD cams across the metro. No one out and about the way you want to see it. It looks, there you go, ominous, and this way we want to have everyone just watching us here at NBC Local 33 as well as on Fox 44, keeping you updated, and just stay home and stay off the roads because the wind is up, and also we're going to start to see that heavy rainfall threat moving in later this morning.
We do have some photos we want to share with you guys. This is some damage photos that were sent into our newsroom. This is damage that happened yesterday. You can see that there in the photo. Looks kind of like a roof fell in. There's a tree fallen over there. These were sent in to our newsroom. I believe this was up in Central. If you see anything, be sure to send it to us. Again, this happened yesterday. As we get ready for this storm today, I'm sure there'll be some flooding and things like that happening around the area. If you are in a safe place and you can snap some pictures, be sure to share that with us. The winds are picking up here in the capital city. They were blowing this morning when I was heading into work. And right now, we're waiting on the rain, but the wind seems to be what we're feeling and seeing at the moment. I think it's a good thing that we're not seeing a lot of crazy weather right now. I'm sure some people are waking up, well, there's nothing happening, but I'd rather that than us having a lot to report on right now.
You're probably saying there's nothing happening, but don't go outside to survey any damage because the wind is blowing. And with this, we've had a few bands across the area, and like with that wind, you can not topple over a tree, and then you could be a goner. So I'm just saying, folks, just stay inside. If you want to snap some pictures and things like that, just do it from the door frame of your home, and just send it to us here on our Facebook site, and also you can knock it on to BRProud.com. We sure will take it there, and you see our site right now. Actually, since we are streaming live, I advise everyone, and you see the little closed captioning that's going on right now. But if you have any questions, and we sure really kindly like to answer them, at least I'll try to answer them this morning for you. I know we had Lakeisha that was asking a question earlier this morning about the businesses being closed and will they be open today? And yes, I think the businesses are open today. Some of the fast food establishments as well as the local department stores and things like that later this morning. As far as I know, they will be open, but I doubt they don't know if they have any employees because of the situation that we're dealing with this morning. Meanwhile, as we go toward the water vapor satellite imagery, I want to show everyone the factor that's really been the case with this storm system this morning. It's been the bout of the dry air. Why am I talking about dry air? Because dry air cuts off a storm system, cuts off any kind of storm system, cuts off a thunderstorm. It would start to dissipate that thunderstorm. The same thing is happening with any kind of tropical system. It's a no-no, and you don't want that to start to happen. But that happened a little bit on Wednesday, and then some of yesterday, and then it retreated. Now it's kind of trying to retreat again today. But you still see on the fringes of this, it's trying to eat away at it, but now it's to regenerate themselves. It's trying to come back again. You see that blow up that's happening again with this storm system. So as I say, they go back and forth with it. We'll see. I think the dry air is probably trying to win out the case of this, but once again, it kept this storm from becoming a Cat 1 hurricane, which is some good news, at least still in the form of that. But the bad news is still has a lot of heavy rainfall that's still south of it, and we're going to start to see that rainfall moving in as we travel into later in your morning into the afternoon. So the winds at 65, a gust of 75 is moving to the west-northwest, and the pressure is still at around 993 millibars, and that's a good thing too, but that pressure holding steady. at least the storm system won't get organized, actually won't intensify, and we need that pressure actually to start going up the other way. And that means the storm system will start to weaken. We don't want to go down, at least in the variety of that. So here we go. At 1 p.m., this storm system should be on shore, moving up towards the Lafayette area, and then right up toward 49, traveling along that as we take a look at later this afternoon up toward Alexandria, then moving up toward the Shreveport area, actually between Shreveport and Ruston. So currently on the Doppler, here in the Baton Rouge area, not that much is happening. Just some wind out there, some cloudy sky. And as we take a look at least Hammond right now, you're looking in the all clear. A few showers are now working up, at least toward the North Shore. That's actually toward Mandeville, at least toward the Causeway, so be advised of that, but nothing severe as of yet. And then we travel further to the east, and we have those cells that are now responding into the Biloxi Gulfport area. Actually, to the east of that, Biloxi, you're seeing some moderate rainfall, and then, but toward Mobile, that's where you're starting to see those wind gusts picking up like you saw this morning at around 59 to 60 miles per hour. Most of that's moving well away from us into Alabama, as well as the Sunshine State. Not so sunny this morning. And currently on the Doppler, here we go with the rainfall, the heaviest of it off toward the south of us. And you're starting to see the lightning strikes. They go away, then they come back. The storm system is just trying to regenerate itself before it makes landfall, but it's still being tapped into an endless supply of moist air into the Gulf of Mexico, and that conveyor belt extends all the way down to the southwest. As that dry air is trying to eat it up on the northern side, it's trying to say, hey, I'm not gonna go away, so I'm gonna tap into this that's funneling in from Texas. And there you go, we have more showers and storms that are popping up about right here. That's off toward the south and east of Houston and Galveston. And eventually, all this, see these lightning strikes here? Signalizing some intensification with some of these thunderstorms that are well into the Gulf. Eventually, all of this, now this has to work its way in eventually around this whole loop, and this is probably about, I would say, 500 to 600 miles away. So, and you remember, it's like a pinwheel spinning, and eventually that pinwheel will have to work all this way up into the Baton Rouge area, and this will keep winding back and forth until it finally scoots out of here as we travel into Monday. And it takes a long process. That's why we're going to be dealing with the chance of heavy rainfall, at least this afternoon into the evening hours, also into Sunday and Monday. And the other factor, the wind, still holding to the east at 18 miles per hour, some higher gusts. If you are traveling in about this morning, heading to one of those sandbag locations, be advised to hold on to those high-profile vehicles like SUVs and trucks, and also just your car. And we have a live view right now of folks that are now, at least in the Denham Springs, one of the locations that are picking up those sandbags this morning. And you have to do it by hand. I mean, they provide the sandbags for you, but you got to get in there and get the shovel out and get the sand in there. But it's all for a good thing, because we're really seeing that the Amy and the Comey rivers will be rising to major flood levels during the next 24 to 48 hours. We're expecting the Comey River to rise all the way up to 34.5 feet. That's major. The Amy River at Denham Springs is expected to rise to 41 feet. That is above the 29 feet, at least the flood stage. So folks along that there are extending all the way down toward Port Vincent, be aware of that. Then we have the wind, as I said earlier, with that easterly wind at 18, some higher gusts. He said a tropical storm warning for everyone, which means the wind gusts will continue to be on the breezy side, actually the more windy side, as we travel toward today. Storm surge warnings are currently in effect right now because the storm system is about right here, at least the center of circulation, about to make a landfall. And we're starting to see that storm surge at about 3 to 5 feet. And that's why we have numerous power outages that are occurring down toward the south of us, and indeed sporadic across the metro this morning. And it really is just more sporadic. And as I go toward the map to show you what we're experiencing right now across southern Louisiana, you can see down toward the south, there you go, Pierre Park, down toward the south, and as you make your way down toward LA1 and Grand Isle, a lot of power outages because that's where the significant part of this storm system is occurring. And also just sporadic around the Baton Rouge area, and also as you make your way toward Grosstat, we're picking up some power outages there to the south of town, actually in Grosstat. And I'm going to zoom in right quick and see where we're experiencing. I think this is right along, if I can zoom in, 77. So be advised of that. Looks like the whole road there has experienced a power outage, and also the same story is now happening over in Brewley. That's on the western side. We're picking up some power outages as well for you folks over in West Baton Rouge Parish. This is on the other side of LA 415, right along Rosedale Road. A lot of power outages are being reported there along 76, so be advised of that. And of course, in Baton Rouge, the power outages are very sporadic. Still, the folks over on Burbank experiencing no power. The same story along Seagan. I know there are a lot of businesses there along Seagan extending into that subdivision that extends into Airline Highway near the hospital on the other side, and also some little bit minor power outages are being reported to the north of Coursey. Be advised of that. That's what happens when you have this wind. They can topple over these trees very significantly. And the other factor, the rainfall totals. And we start to see the rainfall totals go through a genesis themselves, or synopsis, or metamorphosis, or whatever you want to call it this morning. And we have the bullseye that was over Baton Rouge, but now it's pushing off toward the south and west, the way we want to see it. But still, that bullseye encompasses the Baton Rouge metro, which is this whole area here. So some folks could see as high as 16, 17 inches. Some folks could see as much as around 5 to around 8 inches of rainfall. So that's just the way it is. It depends on where those heavy bands set up across the metro. So be advised of that. And we see on the Euro model, there we go, between 6 to 13 inches, even around 15 inches, approaching the folks up in New Rose, St. Francisville, Morganza. Be on the lookout as well. Here we go with flash flood watch in effect for the majority of everyone, actually everyone under that flash flood watch. And as I said, with those rainfall totals, be advised of what is happening there. So once again, let's take a live look at what's happening down in New Orleans. And right now, even some peaks of sunshine are trying to break through the overcast. But as I said, don't let that fool you, especially the same story here in the Baton Rouge, because this storm system is still moving our way with those winds now. There we go, Carly is now up. We got the brand new advisory. Let's go towards that right now to show you what we're talking about. I'm going to change gears and I'll pop that back up again to show you the new advisory. This is just hot off the press, 7 a.m. advisory. The winds are now up to 70 miles per hour. So right on cue, as we said, the storm is going to be a strong tropical storm, and indeed the winds have now picked up to 70 miles per hour. It's moving to the northwest now at 5 miles per hour. Remember, it was west-northwest. Now it's due northwest. Now 50 miles west-southwest of Morgan City, which means this is now into Vermilion Bay right now, about to make landfall this morning. So be advised, this is about to make landfall. And you're starting to still see those heavy bands off toward the east of us, and the significant moderate rainfall is away from the center of circulation, and those heavy bands are actually now starting to make their way, at least the center, the part of this heavy, moderate, and heavy rainfall is now making their way toward Grand Isle, right over toward the southwest. This one moving on shore within the next couple of hours or so, and indeed that's still about 2 hours away from us. So winds are now at 70 miles per hour with some gusts of 75, moving to the northwest at 5 miles per hour. Still a strong tropical storm. I expected this to become a Cat 1. That's some good news there, but still a very strong tropical storm, and the wind gusts are up to 75, similar to what we saw last hour, but the sustained winds have now come up 5 miles per hour to 70, as that pressure, there you go. The reason for that, the pressure's dropped. 991 millibars. Whenever that pressure drops, the storm gets a little stronger. When it goes that one way, we don't want it to go that way, but eventually it did. And this will probably be the last gasp, if it can, at least it will, before it makes landfall. And then you'll start to see it interacting with land, and it will start to lose intensity because the fuel for this tropical storm is water, and eventually will be cut off because it's over land. So there you go. So here we go on the Doppler. Once again, the Baton Rouge area. Just some scattered showers pushing in. We have one line that's going to be moving in within the next hour or two. And once this moves into the Baton Rouge area, the visibility is once again drop because of the wind that's out there. And then we have the heavier bands are still back toward the Biloxi Gulfport, extending into the Mobile Bay area. And then you still see the significant band, actually the heaviest amount of rainfall, if you want to call it that, where we start to see the oranges and the reds, and more lightning strikes are now popping up again. Remember, they died down, and they picked back up again because of this storm system going through its cycles, and that's what's happening right now. And that's happening at least to the south of Grand Isle. And then we have another cell that's now just popped up that'll be moving into the New Orleans metro area within the next hour or so. Actually, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to change gears and focus on a tracker to track this storm system because it's moving at around 5 miles per hour. But I'm going to track this at around, I'd say, 7 miles per hour of the storm system, actually when this rain shield will start working its way into the Baton Rouge area, because remember, this thing is pushing in from the south and east. So when this thing pushes around into the Baton Rouge area, you see, there we go, Carly, at around 9:29, and it's saying p.m., but that should be 9:28. Or actually 9:29 p.m., but that's just holding in at the main band if we keep it at around 10 miles per hour. We're talking about this thing is creeping along. But I will say later this morning, we're starting to see the bands. I would say around noon, even before that, this bands will start moving in because of the alignment of the storm system. And once it gets here, because the storm actually should start picking up steam once it moves on shore. And therefore, that will start to decrease in time period. So be advised of that. And once that band gets here, this heavy band, because it extends so far back into the Gulf of Mexico, be expecting that rainfall to continue all the way through till about Monday. Temperatures now up 1 degree. We're at 78 now with that wind from the east-southeast at 21 miles per hour. That's why we have the tropical storm warning in effect until your Sunday morning. And of course, that will continue to be the case with the winds up there. We're starting to see a lot of power outages breaking out across the area. And once again, I want to advise everyone, if you're encountering power outages, especially here in the Baton Rouge area, we're starting to see those sporadically as we pop up the map to show you, and also into the Port Allen area. Bruley's picking up some power outages, but the main show, at least of power outages, is happening down toward the south of us, where we're seeing a lot of power outages. And right now, we're also picking up, since that storm system is about to make landfall, the storm surge warnings are now in effect. We're starting to see those water picking up, especially in Vermilion Bay, at 3 to 4 feet. So once again, rainfall is going to be a factor today, as not only today but tomorrow into around your Monday. We're now joined with Chad Sabity over at the desk right now. Good morning, Chad, and welcome.
Good morning,
here.
Kevin. Good morning. Good morning, Carly Lang. I know I've been watching the